Now that I have all of my eye created, I am going to just copy that and reflect it for the other one so that I don't have to start everything from scratch and try to get everything to match up. To do that, I'm going to first lock this face layer. So this layer that started out as an ellipse, we flattened. I'm going to go to Object and Lock Selection. And now that one's selected. If you look in your layers here, you can see this is that one right here. That's the one, and I locked it. So I could either lock that by clicking right here and locking it there, or the way I just did, which is Object and go to Lock, and that wouldn't be grayed out if it wasn't locked. Okay, so now I have that locked, so I won't be able to grab that bottom layer. I'm going to click and drag out a rectangle using my selection tool. As you can see, when I do that, I accidentally grabbed the ear shapes. So either I could lock those or I could just make a new selection. So I'm going to click over here to reset, and I will click and drag out only as much area as I need. So I just clicked and dragged out to about here, and then that way I didn't grab any extra, any extra shapes. So I'm good with that. So now I'm going to hit Control C and Control F, and then I will go to Object, Transform, Reflect. And I'll again choose vertical and hit OK. While I'm at it, I'm going to group all these. So I'm going to go to Object and Group. That way if I try to move anything and they don't all move together, I don't have any problems with that. Actually, they wouldn't be able to not move together. So I'll click and drag that over, and there we go. There is my other eyeball for my panda, or my eye for my panda. Now we are going to work on building the next few details for our panda and then finish it up. Okay, to keep moving forward with our panda, we are now going to make this guy's nose. So we'll choose our ellipse tool and click and drag out an ellipse that will be the bottom of his nose. So again, you can put it in about the position you want it in, but you can always rearrange it later. So something like that. I'm going to choose my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to click on the area of the inside of my ear. So that will select that gradient from that inner ear and apply it to that shape that I just made. I want to adjust that gradient, so I'm going to click on my gradient tool, and I'm going to click and drag down from the top of my little nose, right like that. Okay, now I want to make that ellipse bent just a little bit. I want to curve it. So now I am going to choose my selection tool, just click on my nose, and go to Effect, Warp, Arc. I'm going to change that bend. I just did mine, so it's at what I wanted it to be. So -40% for the bend. You can leave the distortion for the horizontal and vertical the same as what they are, so at 0. You can choose Preview if you want to see what that's going to look like. That's perfect, and I will hit OK. Okay, now I want to make the rest of this guy's nose, so I'm going to I want to copy the face shape. So I actually have that locked, so it won't let me copy it. So I'm just going to unlock it, and we'll click on that and hit Control C, Control F, and now I should have a copy. And I was just holding the Shift key, but I don't need to do that. I actually don't want to do that. But now all I'm doing is I'm reshaping and resizing that so that it's the width of my nose that I just made. So it will be, you can make the nose, I guess, look kind of however you want, as long as it looks sort of normal. So I will use the arrow keys on my keyboard to nudge that down into position. And you could actually switch to the direct selection tool so that you have a little bit more control over that. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I will choose the direct selection tool and click and drag up this anchor point. And back to the selection tool and just move, click off of it, click back on it, and move the entire thing down just a touch. Okay, so you might have to do a little bit of fine tuning. I'm not exactly perfectly happy with that, but I will do that later on my own time, so you don't have to watch me mess around with that. Okay, now we are going to adjust the gradient for that panda's nose. So I actually want to do I'll do a 3-stop gradient again. So I want it to be darker on both sides and lighter in the center. So I'm just going to click and drag out my white. So mine will go from, we're going to go from gray to white to gray. So I just added a stop here. I will make this one gray, and I might play around with that. So I'll go to kind of, I would say a medium gray. I'm going to click and drag my white over just a little bit, and then I will make that also a medium gray. So you want the two on the end the same color. Mine hopefully are the same color. I think they are. Okay, so we're good there. And you can adjust the gradient just a little bit if you kind of want to fine tune it to go ahead and do that. So that's exactly what we want, like I said, where we have the lightest part in that middle of the nose, and then either side is darker. Now we need to make the panda's mouth. So to do that, we are just going to choose our ellipse tool, and we are going to click and drag out an ellipse somewhere around like that. I might move it down just a little bit. So I'm pressing and holding the space bar while I'm creating that shape. So there is that. I may as well change the color of it right away. I'm going to go with kind of a darker gray, something around there, maybe even a little bit darker, just like that. Now I'm going to go back to my selection tool. We're going to copy our shape the way that we talked about it before. So instead of doing Control C and Control F, we'll do it a different way this time. So I'm pressing and holding the Alt key on my keyboard. So you could copy that shape either way. It's completely up to you. Now what we're looking for is the space that we're going to make by removing this new circle. So I'm looking for this little moon shape at the bottom here. I'm going to use my shape builder tool. So click on shape builder, press and hold the Alt key. Oops, I didn't select both of those. Let's step back one. So Control Z to step back one. Choose my selection tool. I skipped that little step there. Select both of those shapes. Now choose my selection or shape builder tool. Press and hold Alt. Click on that one, and now we're good to go. So that's the shape we're looking for. I'm just going to copy that. So I'll press and hold the Alt key, click and drag that over. If you made them symmetrical, that would be perfect. If not, you can go to Object, Transform, and Reflect, just like we've done before, and hit OK. That barely moved it at all, but I'm okay with that. Now I'm going to press and hold the Shift key and select both of these. That way I can move them together. And I might resize that just a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So something like that, maybe just a touch bigger. Of course, you can fiddle around with this for who knows how long. Okay, if you can see my first version, it's a lot different. I changed the gradient a little bit, and then the shape of that mouth is definitely in a different position. So I kind of like this newer one better. I might have to mess around with his mouth just a little bit, but we are almost done. So I'll show you how to do these next few things, and then you can put the finishing touches on yours that you want and kind of make it yours. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is give this guy some rosy cheeks. So again, the ellipse tool, press and hold, or click and drag out while you're pressing and holding the Shift key. Somewhere around there, I want to change the color of this. We're going to do a gradient again, of course, right? So the gradient tool, I'm going to click over here. I am going to choose a pink color. I don't see a pink that I like here, so I'm going to click on this little color palette. Okay, when I do that, I don't get any options besides black, white, and gray, right? So if I click up here in the upper right-hand corner, I see that it's set to grayscale. So I'm going to change that to RGB. I don't know what happened there for mine. I'm going to change that so that it's kind of a lighter pink color for the first color, and I'll change the second one to white. And then I also want to change that to radial, so I want something like that. Okay, now I want to go up to transparency. I'm going to change the blending mode to multiply. So I would like it something like that. If you don't see that, you should be able to go to Window and Transparency, and then you'll be able to see that. So I just clicked on mine and it removed it. So Window, Transparency, and there it is. And it's just, sorry, I closed it again. Window, Transparency, right there. If you click in this little drop down, you have all of those options there. They're similar to what we see in Photoshop. So there we go. That's multiply. I'm going to choose my selection tool again. Click on that little rosy cheek ellipse that I just made. Press and hold the Alt key. Click and drag over a copy. So he's got two rosy cheeks instead of just one. and that's about perfect. Now all I need to do is add my background color and then I'll be set. So I'm going to choose my rectangle tool. I'm going to click and drag out just a rectangle that kind of covers my whole working space, my whole artboard here. And then in there, I want to fill it with a gradient. Again, of course, a gradient, right? So I will go back to my gradient options and you can choose the color that you'd like. So I'm going to go from white to sort of that turquoisey color. I want to reverse it so it looks just like that. I'm going to zoom out and there we go. Now I just need to go to Object and Arrange and Send to Back. And there we go. I have my background. If I want to move my panda around or rearrange anything, I want to lock that background. So I'm going to go to Object and Lock. Oops, Object, Lock, Selection. So then that locks that last selection that I had. Now I should be able to use my selection tool, click and drag across all of these shapes, and I can move that around because I need to move it down just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to just fix a couple of these things up here and then I will be good to go. So I want to make his nose match up a little bit better, but then once I'm done with that, I can go to File, Save, and just first name, last name, Panda, and save it as an Illustrator file for yourself, but also save it as a PDF and submit that PDF in Classroom. All right, good job. See ya.